All right, so this is a blank version of what we call the unit circle. Now we've got one up here in our classroom on the board. You're welcome to use that to fill this out, or I'll put one up here on Canvas as well. But you are going to need to be able to fill this in for our unit circle quiz. So I'm going to go through how to do that. There's some shortcuts here, so you don't have to memorize everything at once. What I do is I fill in my degree measures first. Can you see that there's degrees all the way around here? Basically, there's three things that we're going to do. We're kind of go around the unit circle 3 times. Fill out degrees first, then our radians, then our XY coordinates right here. So I'm just going to start here. Remember the x-axis, positive x-axis, that's where we start. So that's our 0 degree angle. All the way around our circle is 360 degrees. So I'll put those in there first. I find it easier to go by my 90s because I've already practiced doing this on the last lesson. So 90 degrees, add another 90, I get 180. Another 90 is 270. So those are the ones that I like to start with. Now, if you'll notice that so there's 3 angles kind of bunched together right in the middle of 0 and 90 degrees. This middle one is exactly, if you were to measure that, it's exactly halfway in between 0 and 90. So all these middle angles, all you're going to do is add 45, half of 90. So you're just going to add 45 to this 90. So 45 plus 90 is 135. Add 45 and we get 180. Add another 45. So all of these middle ones just kind of leave 1 degree on the top and 1 degree on the bottom. But you're just going to add 45. 270 plus 45 is 315. Okay, so I go around and I fill out all of those next. And then you're just going to probably have to memorize this. But these angles, these are our special angles that we, another special triangle. So our 45, 45, 90 triangle is a really special one because your X and Y are the exact same measure. You've got 2 angles that are same measure, so the 2 sides are the same measure. The 30, 60, 90 triangle is also a really important triangle. So that's where these 2 angles, here's a 30 degree angle right here. This one, you've got a 30 degree up here, but a 60 degree down here. So for all of these that are left, you're just going to add 30. Basically, go to the quadrant here, add 30 to 90. So you got 120, then add 30 again, and you got 150. Okay, go to 180, add 30. You got 210, add 30 again, you got 240. Just kind of double check that 225 should be right in the middle. Then 270, add 30, you've got 300, add 30, you got 330. And your degrees are filled out all the way around. Okay, so you're 1/3 of the way done. Now you're going to go through, let's do blue, and we're going to fill in our radian measure. Now, this is a little trickier, but I'm going to hopefully show you some tricks that will help you. So remember, it still starts at 0. We still measure all the way around the circle, but instead of 360, this is where our 2 pi radians come in. Okay, so from here, again, I'm going to do my 90 degrees, my 180, and my 270 first. I'm actually going to do this 180 because I know that halfway around, if all the way around is 2 pi, then halfway around is just 1 pi right there. And also up here, half of pi is just 1/2 pi, but we write it as pi halves. Okay, so 1 pi over 2. And then what I just figure out is you're just going to add these together, 1 pi and 1 pi over 2. Basically, just add another pi over 2. I kind of also think of it, this is 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2, because 2 over 2 is just 1. So this is going to be 3 pi over 2 right here. And our 4 pi over 2 just gives you back to that 2 pi. Okay, now I'm going to go through and I'm going to fill out all my fourths. So again, I'm just going to take half of this. Remember how 45 was half of 90? So half of a half, if you got half of a pizza and you share half of it, then you give away a 4. So this is going to be pi over 4, or 1/4 pi. So all these middle angles are going to be something over 4. So this is 1 pi over 4. 2 pi over 4. This is going to be 3 pi over 4. And then pi can be kind of disguised as 4 pi over 4. 4 over 4 is just 1. Then keep going, 5 pi over 4. This is 6 pi over 4, just simplified. See the 6 pi over 4. And then 7 pi over 4. And then 8 pi over 4 is at 2 pi. All right, for our 30-degree angles, you could convert them. A lot of people just use your conversion from before, 30 degrees, and times it by pi over 180, and you'll end up with pi over 6. You might just want to memorize that one though. Okay, so everything left, basically, see how these, when I add 30, I'm just going to add this 1 pi over 6. However, so when I do 1 pi over 6, when I have this 2 pi over 6, you don't see it written as 2 pi over 6 because 2 and 6 are both divisible by 2. So they're going to write pi over 3. They're going to simplify. But this is 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6, simplified. 4 pi over 6 will also simplify to 2 pi thirds. Then 5 pi over 6. And 6 pi over 6 simplifies. Then 7 pi over 6. 8 pi over 6 will simplify to 4 pi over 3. 9 pi over 6. 10 pi over 6 also simplifies to 5 pi over 4 over 3. Sorry, where's my eraser here? I'm trying to talk and write at the same time. So 5 pi over 3, that was 10 pi over 6. So this is 11 pi over 6. And then 12 pi over 6 gets us back to that 2 pi. All right, so this is usually the most tricky for students. Just practice it a few times. I promise you'll get it. And then the last one, there's a trick to this too. But remember the unit circle? So we're just going around and getting our x, y points right here. So in our unit circle, our radius is always 1. So these quadrantal points are easy to learn because this is just over 1 and up 0. Okay, this one is over 0 and up 1. This one goes negative 1, 0. And this one is, you're going to go over 0, but down negative 1 right there. Okay, so at least get those points. Now, if you can just memorize this quadrant 1, I'll show you how you can get all the other quadrants just from knowing these nice, lovely 3 points. And we figured all these out in class, and I'm not going to go over it here, but they come from our special right triangles. There's a way to find the sides here using our Pythagorean theorem. But we're not going to do it. We're just going to tell you to memorize them. So first of all, I'll tell you they're all divisible by 2. So you could just do all of them divided by 2. So divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. All right, and then the trick is that you're going to start with the y value here, and you're going to write 1, 2, 3, and then coming back down 1, 2, 3. And then the last thing that you're going to do is you're just going to put square roots over everything. So everything is going to in the top, numerators only. So put a square root over everything in the numerator. However, you can actually take the square root of 1. What is the square root of 1? Square root of 1 is just 1. So I'm going to erase that square root in both of those. Okay, so again, I just had you memorize them. So 1, 2, 3, all under square roots except for 1. And then 1, 2, 3. So the middle ones will match. They'll be the exact same, square root of 2 over 2. All right, now these points are going to match up with a point in each quadrant. So if you'll notice right there, if you drew a line straight across here, those y values are the exact same. Okay, so this y value, notice how I went up, square root of 3 over 2, same thing here. This is just square root of 3 over 2. Now the x value is also 1/2. The only problem is, instead of going positive 1/2, we went the negative direction. So you've got a negative 1/2 right there. Can you see that negative? So all of these x's over here are going to be negative, but the y's are going to be the same value as over here. So we'll have this square root of 2 over 2, because that one matches up with that one right there. This one matches up with 1/2. Okay, and then so we've got a negative square root of 3 over 2. I just always say if there's a 1, then there's a 3 on the other one. The 2's go together, and then the 1 up there. Okay, same thing down here, except for I kind of look at, now it's the x value that's the same. Notice we go over the same x value. So this is going to be negative square root of 3 over 2. And then my y value, notice my y value right here was a positive 1/2. I went up 1/2. On this one, it's going to be negative 1/2. So both your x and your y in this quadrant are going to be negative. And then you could just follow the same pattern. So you've got 1, 2, 3. They're always divisible by 2. And then 1, 2, 3. Okay. And our last quadrant, you could either line it up with this one, or I find it easier just to line it up with the top ones, quadrant 1. So notice this time your x coordinate is the same. Okay, you're going to go over 3/2 for both of those, or square root of 3/2. And then notice, so instead of going up 1/2 to get your y value, you're going to go down 1/2, or negative 1/2. So all your y values here are going to be negative, but then you can just, there's your 3, so 2 and 1 and 1, so it goes with 3 and 2 and 1. And that's how you fill out the unit circle. Okay, there's a couple other things that I told the class to put on their unit circle, so I would suggest if you weren't in class with us doing the exact same thing. They were these. They were from our last video that we said that the sine of theta is always equal to your y value. So notice if I asked you for the sine of 30, all you're going to do is look at that y value and tell, oh, that's not the y, that's the x. All you're going to do is look at the y value and tell me it's 1/2 right there. So write that on your paper. Write that the cosine of theta is equal to x, and that the tangent of theta is equal to y over x. Actually, it'd probably be helpful to write the other ones too. So maybe I'd write the cosecant of theta is equal to, oops, I'm not going to be able to do that here. Let's look at this. Hold on. We're going to, how do I scoot this over? Select objects. I want the whole thing. All right. Sorry, guys. Here's what we're going to do. We're just going to delete it and write it again. So I'm going to write it a little smaller. So the sine of theta is equal to your y. The cosine of theta is equal to x. And the tangent of theta is equal to y over x. Then we could say, okay, so the cosecant of theta is equal to 1 over y. The secant of theta is equal to 1 over x. And the cotangent of theta is equal to x over y. So make sure that's somewhere on your unit circle. That'll be very helpful. And then the last thing is these positive and negative values. But we're going to, well, let's talk about them right now. I'm just going to say they're in our next video, but let's talk about them right now as well. Notice, since the y is your x and your y is your sine, your x is your cosine, and your tangent is this, we can tell which signs are going to be positive and negative. So your y value here in quadrant 1 is positive. So we're going to say that the sine of theta is positive. The x value, our cosine, is also positive. So that cosine is positive. Our tangent, which is a positive divided by a positive, also positive. So in quadrant 1, there's no negatives. Oops, I was trying to cross that off. They're all positives right there. However, look over here in quadrant 2. They're looking for the sine, that's your y value. That one is positive, but the cosine, the x value, is negative. See how you went back, or negative? So the cosine is going to be negative, and our tangent, which is a y over x, is going to be positive divided by a negative. So that one is going to be a negative as well. Okay, down here in quadrant 3, our y right here is negative, so our sine is going to be a negative value right here. Our x is negative, see all these negatives here? So our cosine is negative. However, our tangent, when we have a negative divided by a negative, so y over x, negative divided by a negative, that will go to a positive right there. And then in this last quadrant, our y values are negative. So our sine is going to be negative. our cosine, our x values are positive, so they'll be positive, but our tangents are going to be y over x, or negative divided by a positive will give us a negative. Okay, and then on the unit circle, I'm going to post the answer key with it. Also lists all the cosecants, secants, and cotangents. Just note that they go with, so if the sine is positive, so is the cosecant. If the sine is negative, so is the cosecant. So they just match up there. All right, but that's how you fill in the unit circle.